When we became terrestrial bipeds, as opposed to arboreal bipeds, as our ape ancestors almost certainly were, the shape of the pelvic opening changed, becoming smaller and more oval. At that point, birth became difficult and dangerous, as it had not been previously. And apparently, maternal death in childbirth is a real problem, to the point that women with larger pelvises had a selective advantage. They lived long enough to have more children. Pelvises got larger, allowing babies to get larger, making pelvises get still larger. But pelvises couldn't get too large, or walking and running would be inefficient. So we have three factors here: maternal survival, efficiency of movement, and baby birth size. Maximize any one of these and the others suffer, yet all three are important. The compromise that we've ended up with isn't fair, nor is it necessarily the best anatomical design that could be imagined. But evolution doesn't make things fair, it only makes them work. And death in childbirth, even without the aid of modern medicine, is not frequent enough to give selective advantage to women with a slightly different anatomy. Our bodies work well enough, in other words. It's up to us to make up the difference with medicine because, well, evolution does not have to be fair, we can strive to be. Live birth must by definition carry risks to mother and offspring, but from what I've read, the issue of danger is over rapid development of our brains. The skull thus demands as the biggest unyielding part of the baby to get through the pelvic aperture. So it may be that there was a point in time where the damage done during birth was so great it threatened survival of the human beings of that era. We have to assume that this didn't happen since we're here and also we're dealing with this process. I too find it strange that childbirth in humans should be so painful, but of course it's worse for modern women whose body is nothing like as flexed by the process of living as it was in the past. I'm nevertheless amazed and impressed at the drive that persuades any woman to go through this, never mind many times. But women do and survive, and in one case of my acquaintance remains in stunningly good shape despite 6 confinements. As a boy, I was told that farm workers in primitive countries often gave birth at the field edge and returned to work within minutes. How true this was is anybody's guess. My water broke at 9 a.m. Friday morning. I was having irregular contractions that frequently puttered out for hours at a time, but it was obvious I was in labor. I did a lot of things to try to get them to pick up, walked, jogged, bounced on my ball, went up and down countless flights of stairs, crawled all over the house with my toddlers, and rested in between. Nothing seemed to help make the contractions more consistent. Sunday evening, I went horseback riding with my family and came home and took a hot shower. My contractions picked up and became even more intense. My midwives arrived around 11 p.m., and I honestly believe they didn't think I was in labor. I was in a fantastic mood and breathing through the slightly uncomfortable feeling with ease. They got a call around 3:30 a.m. that another mom was having contractions more frequently than I was, every 3 minutes compared to my every 4, and left to be with her. And they left. I laid down to try and rest between my waves. I didn't get much rest, but laying in bed on my side with pillows between my legs was comfortable, so I laid there for a few hours. Monday, around 11 a.m., I decided to take a hot bath because my hips were pretty sore, posterior baby and back labor, and my contractions picked up in duration and intensity. I told my midwife, and she said she'd send her back up. At around 1:25 p.m., I hit transition and got sick to my stomach, puked, and then it was like I got in the zone. At that point, I texted my midwife, telling her I hoped her backup drove fast, even though I knew she wouldn't make it. I went to the pool, and I just let my body do what I needed to do. I breathed through the intensity of the waves, and someone decided to call my midwife. I knew the backup wouldn't make it in time, but I wasn't worried. I kept telling myself that my body was made for this and that my baby was finally coming. I didn't push at all, I just let my body take over. FER is incredible. I was never in any pain at all, just very uncomfortable during transition until I puked. My sweet boy made his appearance at 1:44 p.m. and weighed 10 pounds and 22 inches long at exactly 41 weeks. I caught him myself, and when my sport team freaked out because his cord was around his neck, I stayed calm and reassured them that he was okay. It took him a few minutes before he could make regular breaths, but I could feel his heart beating, and I knew somehow that he was okay. The midwife showed up about an hour later and helped me finish delivering the placenta. I think I was just too tired to push the last bit out. There was more emotions here. The weeks leading up to my labor were long and prodromal labor since before 35 weeks. I had my midwife for prenatal and postpartum care, but I chose to give birth unassisted with no help from others. At 35 weeks, we learned I was 2 centimeters dilated, 80% effaced, and at +1 station. My midwife didn't foresee me making it to 40 weeks. May 24th, 2018 was just like any other day. I was 38 weeks and 3 days along. I did a lot of lying in bed watching TV. Like every other day, I had a few good contractions, but these were a little more pushy feeling. I called my mom just to give her a heads up about these different contractions. While on the phone with her at 7:06 p.m., my water broke. I was so excited that labor had finally arrived. I was home with just my 2 other children, aged 3 and 11. My mother and significant other were both over 2 hours away. I called my oldest into the room and told her my water broke and it's time. I had her start calling the list of friends who wanted to attend my home birth while I did my hair and makeup. LOL. The photographers arrived and started to capture all the details surrounding. With each contraction, I leaned over the pool, which was very high, and offered counter pressure to help relieve her back labor. In between, I'd offer water and help dry off arms with the pool water being so high. There was a moment in between contractions where Joel and Lucy leaned on each other, so I quietly stepped back, allowing them to have a moment with each other. Here they were, the ones who created this life. I wanted them to share that and for it to be captured through pictures and video. The moment faded away as another contraction picked up. Lucy instantly calling out my name. I continued to do counter pressure over the pool. She said that she was feeling so hot, so I made more washcloths with peppermint oil, and I also placed a small amount on her forehead and neck. I would gently blow on her, hoping to cool her down and allow her to melt into relaxation. She had a cervical check and was almost fully dilated. She asked Joel if he wanted to get in and offered me the option of joining as well. I decided to hold off and support her from the side of the pool. The water in the pool was too high for anyone else to get in, already spilling off the side she was leaning. We attempted to slightly drain it, which was not working. Lisa helped scoop some water out with a bowl, and Lucy continued to become closer and closer to the end. She mentioned she wanted to get out and try the birth chair, the chair that she'd always preferred giving birth in. It offered her security, balance, and optimal positioning. Joel got out to work on the pool, fix the cameras, and change into dry clothes. In between a contraction, I came into the pool when she requested that I push harder on her lower back. Being in the pool was much more beneficial to apply pressure because I was at a perfect angle. She checked her own cervix and would attempt to feel the head out of her baby. Eventually, she decided she wanted on the birthing chair, so we got out. I tried to pat myself off with a towel and went behind her waiting for the next contraction. She started to bear down, and I could literally feel the pressure and energy radiating off her body and skin. To be that close to a mother giving birth is indescribable. There are no words that come to mind that would accurately tell you how powerful and life-changing that is. As she pushed, her energy became a part of me. She leaned back fully, allowing me to support her body as she birthed the head of her child. Joel and her held hands, and he also caught underwater footage. Within the same contraction, she pushed out the rest of the body and allowed Rainbow to swim up to her, offering Rainbow a gentle and easy transition into the world. We had to get the baby under the level of the placenta to allow blood flow and to get her oxygen going, so I lifted Lucy up. The midwives stimulated her, and she let out a cry. Lucy and Rainbow sat in my lap so they could be above the water level, and the new mommy nursed her sweet baby. While the big brother and sisters loved her on the side for the pool, she stayed on Mama's chest. At one point, Rainbow had her tiny hand reaching back and holding my finger. It was such a sweet moment to connect with her. "Happy birthday," I told her. I left the birth feeling so inspired and honored. When I woke up that morning, I would never have guessed that I'd be in a pool when she was born, let alone supporting Lucy from such a close, intimate distance. I don't know that I'll ever get to experience something like that again, so I'm soaking it all in. What a cherished memory for myself, the family, and for Rainbow to look back on. That won't happen, at least in societies with access to medical procedures to save the mother and child. That's good, but having big children is also not really that desirable, as they're a physical problem for the mother. Homo sapiens originally gave birth in shallow water. Water birth is still a lot less dangerous for both mother and child.